Come on, what are you doing? This is a hot summer evening in Atlanta, and the stress of fame, family, and that notorious dark past are all present everywhere. But what happens when that pressure finally gets to be too much? Enter Omar Mendeecees' son, who is innocently browsing through his phone when the slightest argument abruptly devolves into a physical altercation. We're talking about man's attempting to take his son's phone, a scene that swiftly escalates into an emotionally charged physical altercation, and guess what happens? The internet is ablaze with controversy, with some calling Mendeecees a monster and others saying, "Hey, we get it, the pressure is real." So, was this just a moment of weakness, or is there more to the story? Prepare to dive deep into the drama, because this is only the beginning, and you won't believe what's coming next. Atlanta's summer evening was hot, but nothing was hotter than the drama that went down behind the closed doors of Mendeecees Harris's house. Let's face it though, Mendeecees Harris isn't exactly a stranger to controversy. If anything, his life has been a series of highs and lows, from his troubled past to his fame on reality television. However, this may be the most shocking thing he has ever been involved in. It all began when an innocent father-son moment turned into a public scandal that no one saw coming. Imagine the scene where Mendeecees is dealing with pressure from his family, his own emotional baggage, and his past. The heat of the day isn't the only thing suffocating him. The weight of his present and his past, as well as the very real pressures that come with being one of the most talked about men in the reality television industry, and his son Omar are. What actually happened was that Mendeecees tried to take the phone away from his son Omar in what appeared to be a moment of frustration, but things took a much darker turn in a split second. What was supposed to be a simple tug of war over a phone escalated into a physical altercation. Mendeecees, like any other teenager, was likely too engrossed in his phone to notice the tension that was building between him and his father. This type of scene could occur in any family, with the father trying to enforce some discipline, but what follows isn't just a moment of fatherly correction. This is where the story gets complicated. What you're about to see, or perhaps you've already seen, will make you reevaluate everything you thought you knew about men and their relationship with their son. It was a brutal altercation that left fans split and social media buzzing with questions about whether this is a man losing control or something deeper is going on. The video is just as shocking as you would expect, showing Mendeecees snapping in a moment of rage and grabbing at his son's phone. Fans are asking whether this is a father's anger or a moment of weakness. You must realize that the cameras didn't record a random fight between father and son. Rather, they captured an emotional breakdown that was raw, unfiltered, and all too real. The physical push wasn't scripted. It wasn't planned. This wasn't some kind of fake reality TV stunt. This was Mendeecees Harris at his peak. The violence, though brief, was enough to spark a firestorm online. It's no secret that Mendeecees' past has been turbulent, but how much of that dark past is influencing his decisions today? And how much of that emotional baggage is spilling over into his relationship with his children and family? These are the real questions we need to address from the very beginning. Mendeecees' life has been filled with controversy from the start. But why did this happen? Was it just a mistake, or was this the last straw in a much larger ongoing emotional struggle? Many legal battles, personal struggles, and a great deal of public scrutiny have made it easy for fans to forget the man behind the fame when all they see is the television persona. However, behind the cameras, there is a different story. A story of a man who is frequently torn between his past mistakes and his desire to be a better father. But would it be possible to undo the damage caused by his past actions, or is it too late? The public's reaction was divided when the video leaked, as you might expect, and some fans defended Mendeecees, arguing that, after all, he's just a father trying to discipline his son. However, other people, including their teenagers, were quick to denounce Mendeecees' actions as abusive and inappropriate. Social media erupted, with supporters defending him and critics viewing it as an obvious case of parental overreach or worse, abuse. But here's the twist. What if this incident wasn't just a family argument? What if it was a sign of a much bigger issue that had been simmering beneath the surface for years? After all, we've seen Mendeecees battle his own emotional demons in the past, and let's not forget about Yandy Mendeecees' wife, who was caught in the midst of this chaotic situation as, at the end of the day, this moment is more than just a family argument. It's a microcosm of everything Mendeecees has been dealing with for years: fame pressure, emotional stress, and the constant scrutiny from the public eye. And it all came crashing down in that one moment. As the story progresses, the question remains, was this a one-off, or is this just the tip of the iceberg? Mendeecees lost his temper, and Yandy rushed to intervene in an attempt to calm things down. The video of Mendeecees' explosive confrontation with his son went viral online, but it was also a reminder of how far-reaching the effects of fame can be on personal lives. Will Mendeecees' public image suffer irreparably, or will he be able to recover from this scandal as he has done so many times before? Let's be clear, this isn't just about a family fight, but about a man who's constantly living in the shadows of his past, trying to escape his demons, but finding it nearly impossible. The public didn't just sit back and watch this unfold. They got involved, and in the days after the leak, the pressure on men in DC increased. Wasn't just a bad parenting moment, though. It was the culmination of years of stress, emotional baggage, and unresolved issues that had been simmering under the surface. Trust me, they weren't subtle at all. Some fans couldn't wait to pile on the hate, claiming that this was an example of a father losing control, while others were quick to jump to his defense, arguing that anyone would crack under the pressure of fame. When we break this down behind the scandal behind the cameras, there were rumors that no one really wanted to hear, and anonymous sources close to Mendeecees started leaking details about what had actually been happening behind the scenes in his personal life. Oh no, this time it was the entire world. The media, social media, and even law enforcement were all getting in on the action, and people were questioning not only his behavior at that moment, but also his entire approach to fatherhood, family, and fame. Tell you what we heard was absolutely astounding. According to these leaks, Mendeecees had been dealing with extreme emotional stress for months. Sure, fame and wealth have their advantages, but the flip side is a world where privacy is a foreign concept, and every moment of your life is watched by millions of strangers. Imagine living in the spotlight all the time, with every argument, decision, and tear being captured on camera and broadcast to the world. How long would you last? Reports claim that Mendeecees was battling his own demons behind the scenes, trying to maintain his image while coping with the fallout from his past legal issues. The Harris family has been dealing with financial issues that have been kept secret from the public. Although Mendeecees is a reality TV star, his life isn't as perfect as it appears on screen. According to leaked sources, his extravagant lifestyle wasn't exactly as sustainable as it seemed. Word on the street was that money problems were creating more tension than fans could have imagined. But wait, there are more sources that also suggested that there were internal struggles within the family, with Mendeecees allegedly feeling unsupported by those closest to him, and let's not forget about the emotional baggage he's been carrying, his past actions, his time in prison, and the unresolved feelings of guilt and shame. All of these issues have been festering for a long time, and when the video came out, it was like a pressure cooker exploding. Let's talk about the true cause of this whole incident. Sure, the phone fight between Mendeecees and Omar seems like the trigger, but what if it was only the beginning? What if the underlying cause was a man who was simply pushed too far? As the days went by, the public's reaction became even more divided. On the one hand, supporters of Mendeecees stood up for him, claiming that he was just a father attempting to exert control over his son because, after all, children these days are always on their phones. So who hasn't had a moment of frustration with their kids? They continued by saying that this was a one-time incident and a temporary slip-up in judgment that didn't define Mendeecees as a father or a person. But on the other hand, there were those who were horrified by what they saw in the leaked video. These critics weren't having any of it, viewing it as an example of emotional abuse by a man who was unable to control his rage, and they immediately began demanding justice, saying that he should be a role model, not a bully. The backlash was swift and harsh, and the video quickly gained a lot of attention on social media and in mainstream media. However, there is a difference between public opinion and the law. While fans and critics were analyzing the video frame by frame, the legal community was silently observing. And the more people commented, the more this scandal felt like a legitimate legal matter. Now, we get to the real question. What will be the fallout from all of this? Is Mendeecees facing potential legal trouble? That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? Some legal experts started to weigh in, suggesting that if Omar wanted to, he. However, this is a complex situation. If Omar chooses not to press charges, and if Mendeecees and his family are able to reach some sort of reconciliation, then perhaps this scandal will fade into the background. However, if the fallout continues to gain momentum, and if the public backlash continues to grow, the situation could escalate into something far worse than just a viral video. Additionally, if the emotional toll on Omar was as severe as some speculated, Mendeecees could face a whole new set of problems that go beyond just public scrutiny. Mendeecees' relationship with his wife, Yandy, has been severely strained by the scandal. If the tension between father and son was that high, just think of the fallout between husband and wife. Would Yandy be able to forgive Mendeecees for this outburst? Could their marriage survive the aftermath of this public display of aggression? Only time will tell, but let's just say that the future of the Harris family doesn't look as bright as it once did. As the public's outrage grew and the media storm peaked, everyone was wondering if Mendeecees could save his family and reputation. The situation was getting out of control, and it was obvious that the damage had already been done. But the real drama, the one that no one could have predicted, was just getting started. And while fans' reactions to Mendeecees' social media accounts were mixed, the real conversations were taking place behind closed doors. On the one hand, his wife was trying to protect her family and keep their public image intact. But on the other hand, her husband's actions were raising serious questions about their relationship. Could she stand by him after this explosive incident, or would this scandal be the tipping point for their marriage? The tension was evident, and each day that went by only fueled the fire. Mendeecees was no stranger to controversy. His previous legal issues and public feuds were well documented. However, this incident hit differently. It wasn't just a dispute with another celebrity or a legal battle. It was an emotional breakdown played out in front of millions of viewers, and the fallout was massive. The fact that the video was leaked made everything worse. Being a reality TV star comes with a pressure that most people can't even begin to understand. Every moment is scrutinized, and the slightest misstep can escalate into something much bigger. Mendeecees' legal team was working hard to contain the damage, issuing statements claiming that the video didn't tell the whole story and that the situation had been taken out of context. According to their defense, the altercation between father and son was a one-off incident and not indicative of Mendeecees' character. Have leaked that footage, and the ramifications were enormous. Now, there were questions about who would benefit from the leak. Was someone trying to further damage his reputation? Or was someone trying to reveal the truth about what was actually happening behind the scenes? Everyone had an opinion on Mendeecees' actions, some supporting him and others condemning him. Among those who condemned him were family therapists and child advocacy groups, who said that what Mendeecees did was an example of toxic masculinity and emotional abuse, arguing that this incident wasn't just a one-off. They even went so far as to suggest that the video was edited to make the situation look worse than it actually was. But despite their efforts to downplay the incident, the damage to Mendeecees' reputation had already been done. A bad day for Mendeecees occurred because it was part of a larger pattern of behavior that needed to be addressed. The public's reaction to the video was swift, and as new theories and accusations surfaced, some fans conjectured that Mendeecees had been dealing with more than just family issues. Could there have been other darker forces at play? Rumors about his mental health began to circulate, with some speculating that he had been struggling with depression or anxiety. These rumors were fueled by his cryptic social media posts and the noticeable change in his behavior over the past few months. Could his past actions, including his time in prison, have come back to haunt him? It's no secret that growing up in a famous family can be difficult, but being thrust into the spotlight after such a personal and painful moment made things even more difficult for Omar. Mendeecees' son Omar was left to pick up the pieces after the viral video turned him into an unwilling public figure in his own right. People wanted to know how he was feeling and how he was coping with the aftermath of this very public confrontation. Was he okay? Was he traumatized? The pressure on him was unfathomable. The odds were stacked against him. But in the world of reality TV and social media, anything is possible. One thing that became evident throughout this entire ordeal was the divide it created among fans, some of whom were steadfast in their support of Mendeecees. They called for understanding and compassion, citing the pressures of being in the public eye and the fact that he was reportedly struggling with guilt and regret behind the scenes. He was reportedly torn between his desire to protect his family and the fear of losing everything he had worked so hard to build. Everyone has bad days, and they claimed that this was just one instance in an otherwise harmonious relationship between father and son. However, there were fans who were appalled by what they saw, and they believed that wasn't just a bad moment or a misunderstanding, but rather a warning sign that Mendeecees had some serious problems to deal with. The fallout from the video continued to have an impact, and the media circus didn't seem to be slowing down. In fact, it seemed like every day brought new revelations, rumors, and reactions. As the public continued to analyze every aspect of the drama, one thing was certain: this scandal had taken on a life of its own, and no one, not Mendeecees, not Omar. Even though Yandy was going to escape unscathed from all of this chaos, the question that lingered was whether Mendeecees could move past this scandal and rebuild his life. Could he redeem himself, or would that one moment of rage define him forever? Only time would tell, but one thing was certain: the drama was far from over. As the story unfolded, fans were left wondering if this was the end of the Harris family's time in the spotlight, or if it was just the beginning of a new chapter. Only time would tell, but for now, all eyes were on Mendeecees and his family as they attempted to deal with the fallout from one of the most shocking moments in reality television history. Okay, people, what do you think about this shocking turn of events? Was Mendeecees justified in what he did, or did he cross a line that cannot be uncrossed? Will he be able to rise from the ashes like a true phoenix, or will he end up like this? What about Omar? How will he handle the emotional fallout and public scrutiny from this family drama? Do you think Mendeecees can redeem himself, or is this the last nail in the coffin for his reputation? If you're as shocked as we are, please hit the like button. Bombshell, and don't forget to share this video with your friends. You know they'll want to watch it too. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and enable notifications so you never miss any of the most recent and most significant celebrity scandals. We'll keep you informed about this story as it develops and a ton of other crazy, jaw-dropping stories, so stay tuned. Keep watching and let's continue this conversation until the next time. Incredibly disorganized.